show the chapter we are ending with. Yeah, what is your chapter here? Area was not there. Which chapter? Insulation. But that is not there for her exam. Humidity I missed.
किया हमने.
We'll do certain math watch from our YouTube channel.
But we have done.
Humidity we have done.
No, math work we have done.
But not all the maps, my dear. Wait, I can
No.
तुम सब absent है तो मेरे से पूरा वर्ल्ड मैप करवाया.
प्रसाद तुझे वॉल्यूम देना.
मेरे तो मार्क्स कर गए ये देख सब.
बड़ा तो she's trying for.
नहीं सब absent है तो आपने वर्ल्ड मैप कराया था ना.
She was absent on that day.
सब ही absent.
Initially she used to be very enthusiastic in lectures I was studying slowly.
Absent.
I am not saying that you are purposely taking it. Leave as a leave. We as a teacher take a leave, the next day we come and cover the portion. How about you? You don't worry about that all. जो भी जाए गया. चलो जानिए. I am getting the.
Sir, मैं game हाँ.
What is it? देखता हूँ. मेरे तो सर वैसे पढ़ रहा है.
Hardly predict 2 to 3 minutes.
But whenever it is, but we will not start now. है ना? Take the page number also page number here.
234.
So, ना बड़ा बहुत समझना. नहीं नहीं.
234 तो नहीं पाया.
234 ना 434 से. चलो, you don't have. Come with the pencil. And take your what is this? Textbook also. 234 equator अभी हम लोग ने सीखा. This is very good ना? Like I erase it. Sometimes I also get very frustrated with the hard work. I should take some rest. Yeah. See all the map. What is it? Natural regions, na? Because there are certain things I'll just let you know. Be very sure and understand. अभी India map नहीं है. And the world map becomes more challenging. But normally world map का easy आता है. As compared to, I mean, this is the world map that you get it, correct? ऐसा है ना? And normally we'll have scales here like this. इसको linear scale बोलते हैं. And then verbal scale भी रहेगा ऐसा.
1:2.
This is 5. No? So 1 centimeter on a map equal to 50,000 square kilometer on reality. फिर ऐसा दिया रहेगा. What are these? These are keys. And be very sure whatever keys that you are using it here, whichever place you are going to say. To avoid the confusion, what I used to do during my school days, I mean you are using this as equatorial region. Are you understanding? तो इसको equatorial के लिए पहला keys भर दो. उधर एक बनाएगा, इधर एक आएगा, उधर एक जाएगा, तो then you tend to make a mess out of it. Keys भर दे लेकर, and then you say, अच्छा equatorial पूछा है, क्या symbol है? Shade है. अभी then you are going to other regions, you mark this, or you just leave empty. जो maximum रहेगा ना, try to leave it empty. Why? उधर बैठ के dot dot करने में ही 15 मिनट निकल जाएगा. जो minimum है, उधर थोड़ा सा चाहिए तो shade करो या जो भी करना है, ठीक है? So 234 we are starting with equatorial region. Yeah, first नहीं है. Now it is easy to confirm. So look at that equatorial line. It is crossing South America. It is crossing Africa. And then these are Philippines and other islands. Look at that. Is India having equatorial? No. It is having in fact other. What is that? Tropical monsoon. So second is temperate grasslands. Where are temperate grasslands? We start with again South America. This is Patagonia. What is that? Africa. And again we have it here. Are you seeing it? Then let us see these tropical deserts. Tropic of Cancer से जा. ये पूरा Sahara desert. Africa. And here, then yeah, Godwins or Meadowins बोलते हैं, ये Australian. Some patches in South America, some patches in US or Canada. And then last one, tropical monsoon. Monsoon तो याद है? It is India, adjoining areas, Africa, right? Africa. It was only Asia में इतना ही. चलो पहला 4 पार्ट मार्क करो. You don't have a map. इसमें करेगा तुम्हारा होगा जाके वो अंकल से बोलो ना तुम्हारा कौन है बोलो कि मुझे आईसीएसई का वर्ल्ड मैप दे यस
इस समय मैंने माफ करके रखा है तो 2 महीने के
शी वाज एब्सेंट ऑन दोस डेज हां 2 या 3 यार हां बोलो यू विल गेट सम मीटिंग्स ये डू हार्ड वर्क एंड गेट सम वेरी गुड मार्क्स यार तो बस ऐसे ही बोलता रहता मैं ये करेगा मैं हूं फिर दोस why did you get that highest marks huh why put your head down and chill there's no nothing to put down you're not done any crime तेरा मुंह से ये नहीं निकलता ना मैं नेक्स्ट टाइम करूंगा करके बस बैठ जा ऐसे बैठ कुछ नहीं कर सकता if
But
you're
this time I literally tried very hard. Like I
then
did
why
hard
did you
work,
not
but
come, get a dear देखो पेपर लिख रहा मेरे साथ बैठ मैं तुझे बताऊंगा कि किधर गया है क्या हो रहा है तो कुछ नहीं करता है
मैंने जब रीचेकिंग को दिया ज्योग्राफी केमिस्ट्री को बोलते बाहर से आया तो बहुत से रीचेक
He's telling that we don't have for next time. We'll make it next time.
नहीं ये पागल है इसको बोलो तू वो ना पागल है
इंडिया
Yeah,
का
वो
दे
सर पागल.
वो दे दो वर्ल्ड मैप चाहिए इंडिया का मैप नहीं चाहिए
वर्ल्ड में बताओ अपना
वो
बड़ा वाला
हाँ बड़ा वाला ये यही हाँ क्योंकि ये इंडिया का क्या वही तक बोला he is not full educated ना you go तो इंडिया के लेकर आ रही है और मुझे बोल रही है ऐसा मैंने वही तो बोला देखो थिंक सीरियसली ऐसे नहीं कि तेरे पास दिमाग नहीं है बट तुझे अप्लाई नहीं करना छोड़ दे I feel only one thing whatever can be done it can be done only in one life एक बार लाइफ गया रिटर्न आता है नहीं आता सब कुछ मिल जाएगा क्या बोलते हैं कपड़ा मकान but only one thing you will not get your life ये इंडिया में हाँ ये नहीं चाहिए ये देख मैं वर्ल्ड मैप सिखा रहा हूँ छोड़ दे छोड़ दे वो पेपर वाला मैप भी नहीं है बच्चों को देने के लिए ठीक है करके
तो बाहर जाकर देखिए
ये इनको अंदर में इसका बाहर करेंगे तो उसे बहुत चल रहा है वर्ल्ड मैप ठीक है मैं अभी कभी उधर से आऊंगा तो बोलूँ
पेपर वर्क का नहीं होगा ना पेपर का वर्क का तो
आता है
आईसीएसई 10th आईसीएसई वाला 9th का नहीं
उनको भी इंडिया मैप ही है
और उधर लिखा है कैसा 10th आईसीएसई लिखा है पेपर वर्क मगर
he is inside studying geography you are outside you come in first अच्छा ये मैप यूज करें फिर ये बुक यूज करें बोलो ये बच्चे को
कौन सा
ये कुछ पुराना वाला है क्या देखना उनको प्रैक्टिस करवाना मैप Hey, you erase it and do it. हाँ जाओ आज भैया नहीं दो देखो पुराना वॉल्यूम रहेगा तो लेकर आता
He told me to do it, and like after doing it, he told me to.
erase हाँ चलो लाइटली करो
हम देखा बोला
हाँ ठीक है इसमें कर
पेंसिल से
दे
करो
इसमें हाँ फिर वो रब कर देगी वेरी लाइटली डू ना बच्चा हाँ
What?
the marking why didn't you bring your work ठीक है छोड़ो I understand you will give all reasons My eyes need more rest than my brain. Confused. Seriously, I'm wearing this progressive glass, na? It's not very powerful, only plus one, both. Sometimes I feel it will kill me with anything. पिकनिक चेक करना सबसे बड़ा गलती. Yeah, carefully, no?
Yes.
It is only for your practice. Faces so many different picture. Tomorrow onwards, sorry, nowadays. But today onwards.
Like in school. School.
Today's having. He told me it was long before they have started this month.
So Wednesday you have lecture. Like that's something.
Wednesday, is it? What time it is given?
2 o'clock, 2:30 to 5:30.
Bring textbooks, volumes, and I am also be coming for a short level.
Yes.
Give it a good shot that we have the best of the best class. ये थ्रोट का भी ऐसा लग रहा है कि किसी ने अंदर बैक्टीरिया डालकर जैम कर दिया एक ही मिनट 2-3 months before I had viral fever in my university. And luckily it was a non-function Saturday. आज 8:30 हुआ. I ordered all my teachers to do their work. फिर एक रूम पकड़ के मैंने जो सोया देखो, तो मेरा स्टाफ पर थोड़ा भी 10 मिनट ना जाके कोई कोना रूम में पकड़ के सो गया. तो 2 दिन पहले बोला यार मुझे भी ऐसे नहीं क्यों सोने का. भगवान ने आशीर्वाद दिया. आई थिंक 9 बजे सोया तो सीधा 2 बजे उठा. बीच में भी एक बार लोग आए सर चलो सर लंच करने गया. तो क्या खाया मुझे याद नहीं, बट आई हैड सम वन टैबलेट. 1 second I slept. Whole day I was sleeping. तो कुछ बोलेगा नहीं, प्रिंसिपल आती नहीं कर बोले यार, बट आई फेल्ट लाइक ना क्राइंग. नेक्स्ट दिन आया संडे को पूरा सो. मंडे भी उठ के गया, बट मंडे इवनिंग के बाद मुझे थोड़ा सा नॉर्मल. नेवर इन माय लाइफ आई क्राइड लाइक एनीथिंग. इतना कैसे सो गया. वो बेंच में हमारा रेस्ट रूम है, ऊपर जा सकते थे. वो प्रिंसिपल को बताएगा, फिर वो उसको बोलेगा पेपर डाला है सब है. But I don't want to tell them कि मैं रेस्ट रूम में फिर सो रहा हूँ. तो मुझे अभी वैसे ही फील हो रहा था. तो मुझे कहा कि मैं तो जल्दी करो, we'll play your game. If it is not interesting my dear, तो दीवार में रख के अदरक की तरफ कूद के निकलते हैं, है ना?
अरे it's like
I am not a.
no.
I am a. How many times I talk to you? Any times I use the word array for you guys? No respect. I've never used it.
I don't know.
Hey, but I've never used it against my students. Even in house also we speak in South Indian language less and more English only. But then never we used to speak like this. And many Malaysians are there in the university. Okay, they'll say, sir, what I am telling, you didn't start at all. So, sir. What I was listening, what you were not saying. Sir, I know both the ways that is my bread and butter.
So you understand Marathi?
I speak also. I have learned, like born and brought up here, then I went abroad to working, I cannot forget. I'm more of a Maharashtrian than of a South Indian.
मग तुम्हाला ही भाषा समजत असेल.
हो. हाँ तो पुढे पण बोल ना काय.
माझा महाग वर्क झाला आहे.
आता
तुमची तब्येत कशी आहे?
माझा तब्येत बरी नाही आहे, पण अजून एक अर्धा तास दे, अजून बरी होणार. कशासाठी अर्धा तास? लेक्चर संपून मी. And how are you feeling? I'm feeling better, but maybe like in next half an hour I'll feel more better. Why? At least now. एक on call है इसके बाद. Two of my friends exact 8:30 को call करना है. They hit my head like anything. एक बहुत slow speaker है, एक okay speaker है. इसमें German. और मैं दोनों से मैं fast है. तो before you could put a plan ना, Alex will do this. मैं पूरा बात करके खत्म कर देता हूँ. बराबर है ना. Hello, how are you? How is your family? What are you doing? Very good. अरे इतना स्लो बात कर रहा हूँ. Hey Shavi, over my dear.
So done.
Done? So what is the next map? This also you have done, na?
Mediterranean, tropical.
So what are we planning up to? Whatever regions you are marking in the world map, if you could identify the country, correct? It is easy. Why country is so important? Because that country, if you are unable to identify, then marking of the map is as good as what Riya is doing. What are you doing? What are you doing? She got shot. I said, can you recognize all the countries which are there on the world map? Why? How much you normally scored in the map marking?
Last time it was a 5 marks and I scored.
You scored 1.5.
No sir, I scored 3.
Not bad at all. Good. See, for your brain, I haven't shown any videos of Tundra and Taikana.
Last time when it was a 10 marks, I scored 7.
Sir, you know, I have been cheated in geography.
Why?
Like, Actually, I wrote about everything, but only one thing was wrong.
What is that?
The treeless Arctic. A desolate region where few things grow. Yet, rich in fauna, both on land and at sea, it is the home of an iconic animal in this world of climatic uncertainty. A famous people survive here, toughing it out in the most hostile, populated climate on Earth. A barren land of ice, lake, swamp, and grass. This is the northern tip of our planet. This is the tundra. In the last episode, we looked at the subarctic lands dominated by the boreal forest, the taiga. Now, as we travel even further north in our journey from equator to pole, we arrive at the true Arctic itself, and this region is dominated by the treeless expanse known as the tundra. Our word for this biome, like the taiga of the subarctic, is also borrowed from Russian, with roots in the Sami word for treeless uplands. But whereas the taiga is dominated by enormous forest, the tundra, by contrast and by definition, is devoid of trees and is a bleak land consisting only of dwarf shrubs, hardy grasses, mosses, and lichen. The reason that trees cannot grow here is simple. It's just too cold. And by this, specifically, we mean that summer temperatures must be above 10 degrees Celsius for at least 1 month in summer in order for trees to complete their necessary seasonal cycles. But for anything to grow at all, temperatures must be above freezing. And these two temperature points give us the climatic definition of the tundra. Summer temperatures must be between 0 and 10 degrees Celsius. Interestingly, winter temperatures are not as extreme as some of those found in the subarctic regions of northeastern Siberia. This is because the tundra areas are never that far from the coasts of the Arctic Ocean, and so are moderated somewhat, even though this ocean is ice-covered for half a year or more. Average temperatures in the tundra, like in the subarctic, are cold enough to produce a layer of permanently frozen soil throughout the year. known as permafrost. This is another factor limiting the growth of more substantial plants, which would otherwise demand deeper root structures. The tundra is very low in precipitation, comparable to desert and semi-arid regions closer to the equator. But because of the low evaporation rates from such low temperatures and the barrier of the permafrost preventing proper drainage, water hangs around, allowing many dwarf species of plants to grow. So, where in the world can we find the tundra? The classic tundra with cool summers and very cold winters that produces the permafrost is found only in the Arctic and includes the northern coast of Alaska, almost all the northern coast and islands of Canada, the coasts of Greenland, Svalbard, a large island north of Norway, and most of the northern coasts of Russia. In the uplands of Iceland and Norway, and at high altitudes in the Alps and Himalayas, summer temperatures are so cold that tree growth is not possible, and so these areas have a form of tundra as alpine meadows, although no permafrost exists here. The southern tip of South America and the coasts of the Antarctic Peninsula also have tundra-like conditions, but without permafrost. These areas, however, are really slightly colder versions of the subpolar oceanic climate, the Köppen CFC, that we talked about in episode 7, because winter temperatures here rarely fall below freezing, despite summer temperatures staying below 10 degrees, due to the heavy moderating influence of the Southern Ocean. So what landscapes and vegetation do we find in the Arctic? The absence of trees leads to stark vistas of empty plains and bare mountains, covered only by hardy, low-lying grasses, moss, lichen, and low-lying shrubs, the latter occurring in the warmer section of the tundra bordering on the taiga. The permafrost, permanently frozen ground from a few inches to a few feet below the surface in summer, and going down to depths of up to hundreds of meters, not only inhibits plant root growth, but also prevents drainage, resulting in a patchwork of lakes, bogs, and swamps in flat areas. Due to the short summer, the growing season lasts only for about 2 months, and so the hardy plants that live here must flower as soon as possible after the long, freezing winter. Farming in such a harsh climate is non-existent. The few people that live in these regions, such as the Inuit of North America, rely upon the hunting of animals, seals, caribou, whales, fish, and even polar bears, among others, to feed themselves. There are no major cities to be found in these regions, the largest settlement being Nuuk, the capital of Greenland, with around 18,000 population. And that's the tundra. I hope you found this video enlightening and now know a little bit more about the Arctic. Please leave your comments, especially if you're one of the very few people that have visited or even lived in this frigid climate. I'd love to hear of your experiences. If you enjoy the video, please click the like button and share it with your friends or fellow students. And if you haven't already done so, please click the subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode, where we will look at the last of Earth's climate zones, the ice cap of Greenland, and that unique continent at the bottom of our planet, Antarctica. Almost exclusively, it is one of only 2 biomes so dominated by a single class of plant species, the other being grasslands. In fact, the taiga is dominated by only 4 species families: pine, spruce, fir, and larch, with some areas also featuring broadleaf aspen and birch. And so biodiversity is among the lowest of any biome. The word taiga comes to us from Russian, which is no surprise considering that large country has most of the world's fraction of this biome. It literally means land of the little sticks. The other common term for the taiga is boreal forest. Boreal is Latin for northern, as in aurora borealis, and so simply means northern forest. In the Lonzo 8 biome classification system, the taiga comprises 2 types, evergreen and seasonal. Many of you will be familiar with the evergreen variety, in which coniferous species retain their leaves year-round. This makes up the vast majority of taiga by area. The seasonal type, found only in northeast Siberia, features mostly Siberian larch forest which loses its leaves during the extremely cold winters there, so even conifers can be deciduous. The relationship between climate and biome is very close, as this comparison shows. It can be seen that the Köppen subarctic climate extent mirrors that of the boreal forest biome almost exactly. The center of the Siberian subarctic has an incursion of mixed conifer and broadleaf aspen and birch, but this is still regarded as taiga. Note that the very cold winter subarctic types overlap very closely with the seasonal taiga in northeast Siberia, demonstrating this plant adaptation in surviving such extreme winters. Since the subarctic and taiga biomes overlap so much, I have covered much of this material in the subarctic video of my Secrets of World Climate series, which you can find linked top right and in the description. So I recommend that you watch that in combination with this episode, since I don't want to repeat myself on some details such as the Where in the World section. In our Holdridge Life Zones chart, we find the taiga in the 3rd row, with forest in most of this temperature band. A type of cold rainforest is found in narrow coastal areas in Alaska and Norway where the rainfall is very high. But most of the taiga is either somewhat wet to moderately dry, which in combination with low evaporation rates so far north promotes the perfect conditions for coniferous tree growth. The taiga demonstrates perfectly the principle that rainfall alone is not the sole arbiter of whether a region will be forested, scrub-like, or desert. These 2 graphs of Siberia and the Sahel of Africa have very similar total rainfall, and yet high, but most of the taiga growth. The taiga demonstrates perfectly the principle that rainfall alone is not the sole arbiter of whether a region will be forested, scrub-like, or desert. The taiga demonstrates perfectly the principle that rainfall alone is not the sole arbiter of whether a region will be forested, scrub-like. Principle that rainfall alone is not the sole arbiter of whether a region will be forested, scrub-like, or desert. These 2 graphs of Siberia and the Sahel of Africa have very similar total rainfall, and yet Siberia is forested and the Sahel is near desert, simply due to dramatic differences in evapotranspiration. So why do conifers dominate so much in this type of climate? It is simply that they are just better cold adapted than broadleafs, having evolved much earlier in Earth's history and consequently more experienced in surviving fluctuations in climate as the Earth swung from ice age to hothouse many times in its history. Conifers photosynthesize more efficiently at lower temperatures than broadleafs, and in combination with their evergreen nature, these trees begin growth early in the spring when temperatures are favorable, rather than wasting valuable time to grow new leaves. Needles offer a smaller surface area to volume ratio than leaves, and also have a waxy coat known as a cuticle, which together makes them better at withstanding cold and dry conditions. And as we know from Christmas trees, most conifers are cone-shaped, which has a number of advantages in the subarctic climate. Firstly, this shape prevents snow building up on all the top branches that would otherwise cause them to break, but rather distributes it across the body of the tree to the ground. Secondly, it allows more of the tree to receive sunlight, which is weak in the far northern latitudes. Most of the taiga is thickly forested in this way. The forest floor is dominated by moss, up to a third of the ground is covered in it, while lichen, a mix of fungus and algae, is also common, covering many tree trunks. Wildflowers can also be found in certain areas, and shrubs occur in floodplains where the soil is richer. The soil is heavily acidic and as a result strongly leached of minerals. It lacks invertebrate species numbers such as earthworms and millipedes, leading to a buildup of undecomposed matter. This thick layer causes a cooling of the soil, which, in addition to the poor penetration of sunlight through the thick canopy, promotes permafrost, a permanently frozen layer of soil and ice below the surface. This layer of ice acts as a barrier to groundwater drainage, and so we find a great deal of flooded land in the form of swamps and bogs. The layer of undecomposed needles on the forest floor is only cleared away by periodic fires. One would think that such a cold part of the world would not be frequented by fires, but the subarctic summers are warm, and in general the climate has low rainfall, leading to often tinderbox conditions. Combined with the flammable resinous content of conifers, fires can be enormous in extent. They are so common here that it is believed that no part of the taiga has trees more than a couple of centuries old, since every part of it sees a fire that destroys all in its path within that time period. One such episode, the Black Dragon Fire of 1987, straddling the border of China and Russia in the far east of Siberia, is believed to have been the single biggest fire on Earth in the last few centuries. The northern extent of the taiga blends into the tundra in what is known as the lichen woodland, where the canopy of the forest is broken, allowing more light onto the forest floor where tundra-like species can grow. Further north again, and there is the forest tundra, where isolated stands of trees surrounded by tundra have survived from warmer climatic periods in the past, protected in their isolation from the ravages of fire, and are believed to only still be in existence through non-sexual reproduction, as no seeds are viable in these conditions. The southern extents blend into either mixed temperate forest in wetter regions or grasslands in the heart of the continents where conditions are drier. So let's have a closer look at the species in the taiga. There are only 6 families to consider, 4 coniferous and 2 broadleaf. Pines are the most famous of all conifers and also the most widely distributed, extending all the way into the tropics as well as the North American and Eurasian taiga. The Scots pine is the most widely distributed pine in the world, found from Scotland all the way across Eurasia to the Pacific coast of Siberia. The spruce family is also widely distributed, occurring throughout North America and Eurasia, with the Siberian spruce covering all of Siberia from the Urals to the Pacific, although not in the same numbers as pines or larch. Firs are found on both boreal continents, and this species is most closely related to the cedars of more temperate climates. Siberian fir is restricted to northeast Siberia, but in general firs dominate the more moist coastal forests of Alaska and Norway. The larch family is unique among conifers in that it is deciduous. Like broadleafs, larches turn golden in autumn and drop their needles entirely in winter. In North America, the most common larch is the tamarack, while Sukachev's larch is common in Europe. Siberia as a whole is larch-dominated, and the extreme cold winter subarctic regions of Yakutia and Sakha provinces in northeast Siberia are exclusively populated by Siberian larches, the hardiest of all conifers, and this is why this region receives the specific sub-biome designation of boreal seasonal forest. The two hardiest broadleaf species families are also found in the taiga. Birches with their distinctive silver bark can be found mixing with conifers throughout Canada and northern Eurasia. Aspens, a species within the poplar family that light up the autumn with fiery colour, are found in most southerly regions of the Eurasian taiga as well as upland parts of the Rocky Mountains of North America. In terms of fauna, the taiga is host to many large mammals such as moose, reindeer, caribou, and wolves. In fact, the mammals in general here are larger than in more temperate regions, since having a larger body allows for better heat retention to survive the harsh winters. Many seasonal birds visit during the summer, and the presence of so many swamps leads to enormous populations of mosquitoes, as anyone who has visited these regions at that time will be more than happy to tell you about. In terms of threats, forestry has led to the loss of some primary forest, although this is dwarfed by the fires that reach most of the areas of the taiga at least every century or so. There are no major human threats due to the inhospitable climate and the sheer extent of it. Only about 1/10% of the Siberian taiga is logged annually. But a word can be said in regard to climate change. The northern and southern boundaries of the taiga have shifted north and south over millennia as the result of warming and cooling of the planet's climate. During the last ice age, in fact, the taiga extended as far south as the Gulf of Mexico, and as we head into a warming phase now, the taiga will populate more of the tundra, and more deciduous species, especially birch and aspen, will vie with conifers in the south. Incidentally, the Earth would be significantly colder if we had no taiga. This is because the boreal forest is the darkest of all biomes, and this leads to more absorption of solar radiation, especially during winter, which would otherwise be white snow,